How many of you have had the privilege of receiving an invitation to view the private kris collections of a collector? What are the taboos and pitfalls to avoid when viewing someone else's collection up close? Keep watching to learn more. Okay, hi guys, and welcome to another video. May you be in good health and positive spirit always. Once again, you are with me, Keris Johari, better known as Pak Jofe, the Kris Collector from Singapore, and you are watching another educational video that will help you grow a healthy collecting habit and develop a meaningful relationship right here on the Kris Collector YouTube channel. If you are more comfortable watching my videos in the Malay language, feel free to drop by my second YouTube channel, Pusaka Pak Jofe, right here. Alright, today I will share the do's and don'ts of how to behave in the presence of a collector whom have so graciously extended his invitation to you to come over and view his private collections. Let's get into it right now. Manners maketh man. The 17th century French philosopher Voltaire once said that common sense is not so common, predicated on the premise that acceptable social behavior should be intuitive instead of instructive. However, oftentimes this may lead to unintentional consequences. The fundamental courtesy and etiquettes of viewing the private collections of any kris collector is an unspoken and unwritten rule. It is often assumed that when a collector plays host, the guest is supposedly mature enough to conduct himself well and proper. Unfortunately, this assumption is flawed and fallacious and have led to many misunderstandings and bitterness both to the host and the guest. To bridge this gap, I have decided to produce this video as a quick reference guide for new entrants to this hobby. Allow me to add that this guide is not set in stone, but it covers the basics of how to conduct oneself when interacting with experienced collectors. This brings us to the first and most important rule of all. At number 1, never ever, ever ever, ever ever, ever ever, ever ever, ever ever touch any kris belonging to a collector without their expressed permission. Enthusiasm and excitement aside, this is a very sacred rule that is held dear by every, if not all, collectors. The very act of stretching forward and handling someone else's kris without their express permission is downright insolent in the highest order and is akin to a deliberate act of breaching personal space. It may even be interpreted as an act of war to some. Now, from experience, I have bear witness to collectors losing their cool when their personal collections are manhandled without their expressed permission. Feigning ignorance is not an acceptable excuse, and you may be reprimanded harshly. So be warned. Best to wait for the host to extend his hospitality first before you start manhandling any of their prized collections. The next few rules can be summed up as always be mindful and aware of your place. Remember, you are a guest. It is not customary for a guest to insult his host. The next secret rule is always respect the host. How then should you behave? The next few pointers will be the guiding light. At number 2, never offer your opinion when it is not asked for. There is a difference between a genuine question arising from curiosity or possibly ignorance and that of statements predicated from ego and indifference. Be mindful of your thoughts. Collectors by nature are proud of what they collect. Oftentimes, this may be perceived as ego. Out of courtesy, as a guest, one should be mindful not to bruise the ego of the host, who had went out of his way to invite you to view his private collections. Always remember that collectors are not obligated to receive guests to view their collections. Best to tread on the middle ground and keep your opinions to yourself. Speak when spoken to and offer your thoughts only when asked. First impressions are always the most lasting impressions. If you plan to establish a long-term relationship with the collector, then this is a fundamental rule to follow. At number 3, refrain from making unnecessary remarks. Humor in poor taste should also be avoided when it is specifically related to a collector's collection. To most collectors, their collection is not just a namesake or keepsake piece. Unknown to many, a collection may hold sentimental memories that makes sense only to the owner of the collection, as it's not something that they need to justify to guests viewing their collections. Never offend the host through your ignorance and indifference. At number 4, collectors collect for many reasons. Among them may be purely for exoteric aesthetics and philosophy, or for the esoteric and metaphysical, or perhaps a bit of both. As a guest, it is best that you discern and exercise discretion during the interaction. Whatever your spiritual practices are, even if you are compelled to showcase your know-how, always be mindful of your place. Remember, you are still a guest. Do not assume the collector is ignorant and below you. Leave your mystical beliefs and practices at the door. If the collector is only interested in the exoteric, the aesthetics, and the philosophy, yet you go on and on with your tales of the mystical and the paranormal, you are making an embarrassment out of yourself. At number 5, again, even if you think you know it all, no one likes a know-it-all, especially if what you think you know doesn't add any value to the interaction. A collector always knows more than he says, so if you are on a path to learn, be humble and listen more. Knowledge and wisdom is only attained through humility. Always give due respect to the host, even if the host is perceived as obnoxious, but to honor his invitation, always stay on the middle ground. Let the host regale you with his tales and experiences. Last but not least, at number 6, always thank the collector for his time and hospitality. What you do not see is always after you, the guests, have left, the collector is left alone to clear up and perform some inspection maintenance on the pieces that has been circulated for viewing during the visit session. This is a task that is often dreaded by most collectors and further explains why not many collectors are obligated to extend an invitation to view their private collections to folks outside of the collecting circles. To illustrate all the points I have shared today, allow me to share this story from my experiences back in the day. I once visited, many years ago, a very successful and senior collector, together with some other new entrants to this hobby. Amongst the guests is someone who claims he practices some mystical arts. First mistake he made was he ignored rule number 1, the cardinal rule. Next, he went on and on about the krises in the collector's collection. He broke through rules 2 and 3 in a breeze. Next, he took it upon himself to tell the collector that through his mystical practices, the spirit guardians or guardians of the krises in this collector's collection were jinxed and will bring about misfortune to his family and household or something to that extent. Way too extreme and definitely not the way to conduct oneself in the presence of a senior collector whom one just meets for the first time. With all that going on, obviously he skipped through rule point number 5. What happened next was well deserved in my opinion. I assume at this point the host has had enough and his patience had worn thin. An explosive, expletive-laden rebuke ensued, followed by this person being grabbed by the collars and tossed out of the home of this collector, before a few slaps were exchanged. That is the greatest insult a host can give to an insolent guest. Now, collectors are usually calm and composed characters, but as the saying goes, still waters runs deep. A collector often says less than what he knows, so do not ever underestimate a collector. There is a reason why arcane knowledge is hidden under the guise of philosophy and oral traditions. Before I conclude today's video, let me share a verse from the Holy Quran, chapter 24, Surah An-Nur, verse 27, as a reminder to myself and my dear friends to seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all matters, especially in matters of courtesy and social interactions. Islam advocates kindness and humility to all, and certainly in no way did Islam advocate exclusive selectivity. Penny for your thoughts. To conclude today's video, it pays to be humble. Kindness wins every time. A collector is not obligated to share with you the experience of viewing their collections up close. But when that invitation has been extended, it is akin to receiving a golden ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. Always respect the host and abide by these basic unwritten rules. Even I myself do not perceive myself as being more knowledgeable than others. I too abide by these rules as well when I am amongst other collectors and viewing their collections. You learn more when you think you know less. That is all for today's video. Thank you for watching till the end. I hope this video adds value to you and may you learn something new and useful from watching this. I look forward to reading your feedback in the comment section, so please feel free to leave me your comments and I will personally reply to you. Until we meet in my next video, stay healthy, stay safe, stay curious, and get excited for more to come. Bye bye.